Good evening. This is Penelope Flynn and Otto, of course. We're here as co-hosts of Discussions from the Otherhood podcast. And we're here also with Nikki. Nikki has just jumped in. How you doing, Nikki?
Hello.
Hey. And tonight on the podcast, we are going to be talking about I'm Not Watching That, which will be all of the television shows, programs, films that we have decided for whatever reason that we're not watching that. So before we get started, let's jump in with the weather. And how's your weather?
Oh, it's 83 degrees here.
Oh,
I got I have the fan on and I want to turn the air on, but I'm too lazy to go out there and turn it on.
well, I'm so glad that it's such great weather. 80, I mean, 80 some degrees is nice, this time of year.
Yeah.
So we're jealous of you with your 80 some degrees,
Well,
right?
come on down, Penelope and Otto.
All
Y'all
right,
are
we'll be
more than
doing that.
welcome. And you too, Cranston. Y'all come on down.
Yeah, we'll
We can,
hustle on down there.
yes.
And but now that you're here, Cranston, why don't you tell us how the weather is in your neck of the woods?
We have gotten a reprieve this week. The it's been in the upper 60s. I think today it got up to 75, and it's been sunny. Now, as soon as the sun goes down, grab your coats and sweaters. But during the daytime, it's been great.
Oh, nice. I'm glad to hear, but it's getting good weather. And Otto, I guess you get to tell us how the weather is in sunny, sometimes sunny North Texas.
It's great. It's about 70 degrees and sunny all day. So, it, after a week of rain, it was really good.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, tonight we are discussing I'm not watching that. So we have touched on this category before in the past, but we never really gave it its entire show to this issue about the things, shows, creators, directors, writers, actors that we're not watching. Just have taken a stand for whatever reason. I'm not watching that. So I guess I will get started. I guess asking you, Cranston, is there anything out there that you have just kind of dug your heels in and said, I'm not watching that?
Yeah, there are things that come in two categories of that. The first category is things that I'm not going to watch and things I'm not going to watch anymore.
Ah, there we go. Okay.
So in the second category, there are things that after after they had let Nicole Beharie go from Sleepy Hollow, stopped watching the
Hmm.
show.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then after I found out the way they had, there's a thing I saw recently about how they had released Orlando Jones from American Gods. I had stopped watching after the second season. I didn't come back for the third season at all.
Hmm.
And that was before I knew all the other stuff that went on. As far as things go, that you said, yeah, that's okay. I noticed everybody has certain actors that no matter how much you tell them that this is a good performance, it's a good movie, blah blah blah, they're not going to watch it. Even if you tell them, but it's not like the other thing you saw they
Hmm.
didn't do. That's it. So I know there's one friend of mine who refuses to watch anything directed by Spike Lee, no matter what. He
What was the
also
rationale?
he just doesn't like Spike Lee. Well, first of all, there's a sort of a built-in, and the only word for it is prejudice, because if you mention any movie with a predominantly black cast or a director or whatever, no matter what it is, when I was trying to tell this person, so much so I got them a copy of Black Panther, said, you got to watch
Hmm.
this. It's good.
Hmm.
And they just looked at it and said, well, but it sounds like it's a black exploitation movie. Now, this is the same
Wow.
Now, this is the same person who saw essentially the same quote unquote black exploitation movies that I saw. We grew up, and he still
Hmm.
speaks fondly of a lot of them, despite all of the things like, seeing the crew reflected in cars that were parked on the street, seeing
Mm-hmm.
microphones hanging down in the frame,
Mm-hmm.
hearing the actors calling each other by their real names instead of their character
Ah,
names and stuff. He loves, of course, anything with Pam Grier because it's Pam
Pam
Grier.
Grier.
And but no matter how much you tell him, well, you're missing something if you don't see this movie because it's that. And I'm talking about things like American Fiction. We're talking about things like Watchmen. We're talking about Black Panther, and just refuses to watch it, or if it was directed by Spike Lee, just won't watch it and stuff because of that. Also, he will not watch anything with Tom Hanks or Tom Cruise. I don't know if it's just actors named Tom that he's not fond of, but he refuses to watch either one of those. Now, generally speaking, I will avoid anything with Adam Sandler, and that's one of the reasons I never watched Uncut Gems, no matter how much I heard people raving about it. But it was an Adam Sandler movie, so no, not going to watch that. If it's anything with a lot of the actors from Saturday Night Live, even though I like them, but it was the David Spade movie. Okay. It was a David Spade in the series, like he was in. I think it was Just Shoot Me. Was the one where,
Yes.
that when I watched it, I liked everybody else in it and stuff. So I'd watch it and then I'd kind of go and make a refrigerator run whenever his scenes came up.
Wow.
If it's something with Rob Schneider, definitely not. So
You didn't even see Deuce Bigelow, Male
uh,
Gigolo?
the title alone was enough to keep me from watching it. If Lord Laurence Olivier had been brought back to life and he was in that, I wouldn't have watched it. So so there's
So you just have a bias against the Saturday Night Live cast outside of
no.
Saturday Night Live.
No, because I love just about everything that John Belushi did. I love a lot of things that Dan Aykroyd has done, whether he was playing a straight part like he did in Driving with Daisy, or if he's playing a character part like in that movie, the movie where I think it was him and Chevy Chase, and they were playing these either they were bad spies or people been roped into spying something.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of things that Saturday Night Live people have done. I like just about everything that Mike Myers has been in, or Dana Carvey. So no, it's not them. It's just there are particular things, projects that they are attracted to. That you just said, yeah, this is something that if you watch this, there's an analogy I've used too many times. I'm going to try not to ever use it again. But it's if you go to the beach and you're just standing in the water like ankle deep or something, and the tide is rushing out, and you can feel the water sweeping the sand from under your feet. That is intelligence points leaving your head if you watch one of these movies. So,
all right. So, does anyone else have any response to Cranston to possibly change his mind about some of these actors or these projects? Otto?
Well, some of these Saturday Night Live actor movies are good, like movies Eddie Murphy's been in. He's a Saturday Night Live. They've been pretty good. Trading Places or Beverly Hills Cop or Coming to America.
Yeah.
And Trading Places had both Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy in it. And then of course Ghostbusters had a bunch of Saturday Night Live people in it. So it's not across the board.
Right.
So
He
some of them
said
aren't
something he
good.
likes. He did.
Lord,
But I just said, but I don't understand why you do not like, okay, Rob Schneider. I know he's Rob Schneider. But Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo is so funny. I thought it was hilarious. And I would say, yeah, you should give it a chance. It's silly, yes. But with Oded Fair as a gigolo in this, how can you miss out on that, man?
To badly misquote Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction, when John Travolta is trying to convince him why he should eat bacon. He says it might be a truly tasteful and flavorful, whatever it is and stuff, but I will never know. And
Okay.
there have been a lot of Eddie Murphy projects that I have liked more than
Mm-hmm.
not, whether it was the live ones or the other ones
Mm-hmm.
or the other ones. But I also have to remember it was Eddie Murphy who did Norbit, and
Yeah, that
Eddie
happened.
Murphy who did the one where he played the guy running the robot of himself, and his science fiction venture. Whatever
Pluto
the
Pluto
film,
something,
Mars.
Pluto something.
Pluto Nash, the man
Pluto
on
Nash.
the
Yeah.
moon. Yeah, so
Right, right. Yeah, I do recall bits and pieces of that. So yeah, but I never really saw Pluto Nash. I have to admit, I did not see the film, but I saw bits and pieces, in passing.
that's an
But it
hour and
was
a
like,
half. That's an hour and a
okay,
half you can save for something more worthy.
okay. And but the other was the other Rob Schneider film that has the guy who's the attorney, and he says, "I'm a," said I said, "I know I'm a crooked attorney. I know I'm going to prison."
Mm.
I love that. It's silly humor, but I really liked it.
The thing that I remember is they were saying there's a guy called I forget his real name, but it's his channel of Legal Eagles, where he gives opinions on real legal issues
Hmm.
and analyzes lawyers in in movie performances. And he
Hmm.
said that among law schools and everything, that the portrayal of a lawyer in a movie that
Hmm.
most real life lawyers said is really the closest to what a real lawyer does and behaves
Hmm.
is and the movie just went right over my head, but Joe Pesci in Joe Pesci's character said that is closest to what real lawyers do.
Yeah, I love that film.
Yeah.
I absolutely love My Cousin Vinny. I think
Mm-hmm.
that they
My
it is
cousin Vinny, yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
one of the few films where they actually show what a lawyer actually does and
Mm-hmm.
how a case actually
Yeah.
progresses. Of course, I mean some of the timelines are kind of off, but
Mm-hmm.
still, it's one of my favorite films
Mm-hmm.
for how it is um the process of a case.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a thumbnail sketch, but yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely love
Yeah.
that film.
And all the lines of the Utes, what are Utes?
Utes, two
The
Utes,
Utes, yeah,
Utes,
so
youths,
yeah.
the two youths.
Mm-hmm.
I love that film,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So there are a lot of Animal House, not Animal House, a lot. Well, it's an Animal House. I liked all of the
See, I hated Animal House.
really.
Absolutely, absolutely hated Animal House. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen it like twice, maybe. I just looked at it as I have opinions about certain types of films.
Well, now
Uh,
other than the fact that a lot of the racism and
oh yeah,
misogyny
that.
could be explained away as we were just doing period accuracy.
Okay, I
Um,
mean I understand that. I understand that
mhm,
period. Accuracy thing.
mhm,
But I mean, just again, this segregated society that white people can watch it and think it's hilarious, and
mhm,
I'm just thinking of somewhere outside that campus, police are beating black people with hoses, with
mhm,
batons and fire hoses and dogs on them, setting fires. So yeah, don't like Animal House.
mhm.
Okay, don't like it at all. So yeah, I don't like those kind of period pieces that I guess I don't like something that is all sadness and terrible and
Mhm.
abjectivity, showing black people's lives. But I also don't like things that show this idyllic, anglicized life where there's no black people inside this bubble except the ones that
Mhm.
come there to, play the music and then, get out of our bubble.
Yeah,
You
well,
know?
that and the other thing is that I will look at movies a lot and see where the at least the somebody on the staff did make an effort to at least, even if none of them had any lines in it, but they did put them like in The Day the Earth Stood Still, even though there were no speaking parts for Black people. They put Black people in the crowd, Black people in the group of people they called to the saucer in the end, and so on. That the writers did make an effort of some inclusion to say, yeah, this is Washington, D.C. Yeah, Black people are going to go down there to see the flying saucer. So I do look for things like that where at least, even if it was just like a seen but not heard thing, they did make an effort to include people, and they did have them not being stereotypical or something like
Absolutely.
that.
I agreed.
But
So,
there are a lot of things. There are other people, and some things I will never admit this to a living soul, and I will say this was a deep fake if everybody repeats that I said that. I did watch Under Siege and Under Siege 2, but those are the only two Steven Seagal movies I have ever watched. I was watching Executive Action or the Executive Decision and stuff, whichever one it was, where he got killed in the first 10 minutes. And it's okay, well, he's gone now, so that's it. But Jim was kind of away from that.
I liked Above the Law. That's the only one that I liked. The Steve Seagal film was Above the Law.
Mm-hmm.
You may think you're above the law, but you ain't above mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, Pam Grier was in it, so there.
Okay, yeah. Really? Okay.
Yes.
Well,
Pam Grier was in Above the Law.
It's like somebody said recently about they try not to pile on actors who are in bad movies because they say, well, at least it was a paycheck. You know, they got to pay off a bill. You know, they got the roof on their house fixed or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, you think of it this way, that, you know, they're actors and that's their job.
Yeah.
And it's a job. But certain people, it's like, you know, because they are actors and it is their job, I just want to make sure that they don't get paid. So I don't, you know, watch their films. And Otto, did you have any also that you on your list of not watching? Or are the Knicks taking up your time?
Mel Gibson. Mel
Yeah.
Gibson. I don't know why Mel Gibson is still allowed to make films or be in TV shows. Someone needs to explain that to me because, you know, the show or film that he may be in, may be a very good show, but the hatred and racism and sexism that he portrayed, you can't enjoy it. I don't see how you can enjoy the film.
Well,
agreed.
Takes it away.
A lot of the reason Mel Gibson was really said about Hollywood was he made a self-financed movie that made a crap load of money. And so that was the only thing they remembered. They say, yeah, well, anybody can make that much money. Okay. With pretty much a cast of, I think this was before Jim Caviezel started doing Person of Interest. So he had a cast pretty much of unknowns, and it made all of this money on this movie. And I know a lot of people, it was almost like required viewing if you were Catholic. And these were people who would look at these movies. And even when he did those things, like I thought the most egregious thing that he did in the movie was as Jesus is on the cross and there's a sign from heaven looking down. And like it's as if you hear the thunder in the background and the rain starts and a single drop of rain drifts down like a tear. And then sitting there in the theater saying, oh God, you know, what is this? This is the kind of thing that you do in your final film for your final grade in college or something like that. But that was it and stuff. You know, it was for a lot of people, it was such a religious experience that they thought of it as a documentary, and you know, and so that was it. So that was his redemption thing that he managed to ride that into that and get his publicist to quash or go when he was going to say something else really terrible. But that's just it. He made a lot of money. If that movie had tanked, he wouldn't even be allowed back in Los Angeles, much less to make a movie.
I mean, he is
Well,
to
I
make it so
think
it's hackneyed is the word, just hackneyed. I couldn't get through it. Yeah, yeah, it's hackneyed. Go on. I'm sorry, Otto.
he said all those nasty things after he made the Passion of Christ, and the thing is if money is the barometer, I mean, then if Hitler made a lot of money, he'd be a Hollywood star. I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
if
probably
that's
right.
if that's the barometer, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
All you have to say is, that final solution stuff, well, I've seen the
Hmm.
error of my ways, and I like to make up for it by creating art for everybody, so.
well, Gibson never
Well,
apologized.
not that I
Well,
know of.
he kind of apologized. He just said, well, it was a qualified apologist. I apologize for what I said, but I was drunk at the time, so I didn't know what I was saying. So, okay.
Yeah, it kind of fell
Whoopsie.
trippingly off the tongue, didn't it? Though.
Yeah.
But then he said it
It's like,
again. But then he did.
yeah, it was
But
something
then he
that
did it
you.
again. He did it.
Yeah.
He did it multiple times. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the
Well,
same thing I have with Mark Wahlberg, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he's a guy who did a lot of racist stuff when he was young, and people do silly things when they're young, but I don't including myself, but I don't recall throwing bricks at school buses full of children
Mm-hmm.
or assaulting an Asian person based on the fact that they're Asian, and then trying to
Mm-hmm.
expunge my record so nobody knows what I did. Just
Mm-hmm.
so anything with him, I'm not I'm not watching that. And and,
well,
and
Yeah.
and the thing is, and not because, yeah, I don't agree with throwing bricks and a school bus full of children. That's number one, or
Mm-hmm.
assaulting people basically because of the color of their skin or their ethnicity or their nationality. But the thing is, it takes away from the enjoyment of the film. It's just
Yeah.
so I can't watch the film without thinking about what they did. It's like watching, that Mel Brooks History of the World when he had Hitler on ice.
Yeah.
It's like I'm wa-
Y-
it's like you can't really enjoy the ice capades if Hitler is
Yeah.
doing the figure eight. It's not good.
Yeah.
well, then I've got a movie for you because I understand, and this is the thing that a lot of actors do when you reach the end of your range, that you do something, either you're playing a person with a disability or something like that, and they had his hair cut down, everything so much. I just said, is that who that is? Uh, it wasn't until they had mentioned it in the trailer and stuff that I realized that was him. But this movie, Flight Risk, that's he's the guy who's playing the hijacker on the plane is Mark Wahlberg. And I think somebody has said, I saw something that I didn't even read the article to see the specifics, but I think Mel Gibson directed that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a double whammy.
Oh, or a fun time at the multiplex.
Yeah. That I
I,
can't.
I mean, I'm like you, Cranston. I mean, it may be a very good film. It may be an excellent film, but I
I'll
would
never
be
know. I will
unable
Mhm.
to
never know.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I will
Hmm.
never know because I can't sit there and watch somebody who commit those kind of acts and just put it out of my mind.
Hmm.
It's like watching early Woody Allen stuff as opposed to later Woody Allen stuff,
Hmm.
and that's not to me. It's not a compromise. It's like when did you start doing all that? And maybe you were always that way. I don't
Hmm.
know.
Yeah, I remember with Woody Allen when I started having my doubts about him was Han and her sisters. When I saw that film, I was like, wait a minute. I said, this is highly inappropriate. That this is your wife's sister. Why would you think that that is appropriate, that we should look at this and laugh or be on the side of this man who is going to, who's, the whole film is about his attraction to his wife's sister. But actually, that's not true. It's even before that. Interiors, if you want.
Mm.
When the man tries to seduce his wife's sister, and she gives him what for. So in that one, of course, the sister gives the guy what for, and that's the end of that. But it was in his head then, and it's
Hmm.
kind of like, why would that be in his
Well,
head,
I
that
don't know.
that whole
It's
thing? And then,
Manhattan.
ugh,
Is Manhattan before interiors?
I
Yeah.
don't. I do think it is.
Oh
I
yeah.
never saw Manhattan.
I saw
Well,
Manhattan. I saw
well,
Manhattan, and it was offensive.
it was artsy because he did it in black and white.
Oh
But
boy.
it's about a then 42-year-old man who had a extremely heavy crush on a I don't know how old Mariel Hemingway was supposed to be, but she was
In the movie, I
definitely,
think she was 16. 16.
yeah, she was extremely age inappropriate.
Mhm.
And the character in the movie upbraids other people to point that out to him, saying, well, you can't talk about what I'm doing because look at what you're doing. So
Yeah, that's the excuse. It's kind of like grooming your
mhm,
entire fan base, to prepare them for the fact that this thing that you talk about in the film is what you're actually doing in real life,
mhm,
and that somehow, you all should, not, as you say, upbraid me
mhm,
because of it. And I mean, I like I said, I don't know the timing of it, but like you say, that it came before interiors. But I remember seeing interiors and seeing Hannah and her sisters, and those things I thought were very inappropriate. So I'm looking on IMDb. Manhattan is 1979. Hannah and her sisters is 1986. And let's see.
interiors.
We're trying to find that on this list. And you said interior should have been uh probably around what, 86 or something.
Yeah. So
Yeah, Hannah and her sisters is 86. I remember that. And I'm not seeing interiors in here on the list, but maybe it's not something that he wrote because I'm seeing the ones that were written by him. Um,
interiors was 78.
78. So, okay. So interiors is before Manhattan.
Yeah.
So he's just kind of trying to warm you up
Hmm.
about what's on his mind in interiors, and then 79, and he's just on a roll with this nonsense.
Hmm.
So yeah, but that's what I started to feel a little, you know, questioning about him. And so yeah, and that's one person I do not watch is Woody Allen. I think he is a terrorist with regard to Mia Farrow and her family,
Hmm.
and a horrible individual. I mean, I got to tell you, I mean, we talked about this a while back, a couple of years back, when they had that documentary regarding what had happened to her daughter,
Hmm.
and this phone conversation between he and Mira Farrow. I mean, he just sounded like a cold-blooded killer. I mean, that's all, like a cold-blooded killer,
Hmm.
and you realize the kind of monster that he is, because his films, etc. He always comes across as this so nebbish, but he
Hmm.
really isn't. I mean, he is calculating, um, and what the ruin, and
Hmm.
then all of the individuals who were complicit with him, accomplices in what it was that he had done, and those are the individuals who should also be ashamed of what they had done, but they desiring their either um, adjacency to power
Hmm.
or fear of, like they said, like his publicist, who had a lot of power back in the
Hmm.
day, and would say basically, you say this, do this, have this person on your show, then he won't be on your show or any of the other people that I represent.
Hmm.
So, I mean, people, doing things of that ilk. So it was very hard on somebody like Mia Farrow who had to leave the country in order to get work.
Hmm.
And, again, we have individuals who either, again, desiring adjacency, or this is an individual who knew where the bodies were buried, and so they had the
Mhm.
ability to blackmail other people
Yeah.
regarding what it was that they knew. So, it's just a horrible thing, and we see what he did, so they can't doubt that he would do the things that he said he would do because of the things he had done in the past.
Well, the other
Go ahead.
thing about that is that the most deceptive and perhaps the most devious thing he did was he created that personality of the nice guy, nebbish, who is
Mm-hmm.
clumsy and awkward and this, that, and the other, but he always had a clever quip somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's how he always appeared in public. And
Mm-hmm.
then that's the character he always played on screen. And so he managed to get those two conflated. So you figured, well, that's
Yes.
just really all the time.
Right.
But
Agreed.
underneath it is the real person who is a little more, a little more, a little more gangsterish than his public persona.
Exactly. And I look at it that somebody who is a Woody Allen could care less whether or not, some black woman doesn't watch his films. And I mean, in some sense, what is it? Otto likes to use the term virtue signaling. And so
Hmm.
you call it what you want. Yeah, I'm still not watching his films.
Hmm.
It's, what we want to call it. I am not. I think that he's trash. And especially the exploitation, of these young women, people who feel powerless because he enters their lives as a person of authority and
Hmm.
abuses that authority.
Hmm.
So,
But he's a genius, so
yeah, that's
But
right.
then the question is, was he always that way, or was he just like became that way? It's like his early films was about, they were almost like live action cartoons, and then he started to think of himself, and Hollywood started to view him as sort of this American version of a Swedish director, or art film director or something.
Hmm.
You know,
but
they started to see him that way.
people have followed his career ever since he was one of the staff writers on your show of shows with Mel Brooks and Steve and Sid Caesar and and those guys and stuff. Said, yeah, he was always like that and stuff,
Really?
yeah, he's always been like that, but he just kind of kept it compartmentalized. But as he got more power, I guess the thing is, you get more power and it gives you latitude to act out more because
Hmm.
you build up this persona that insulates you from that. So nobody's going to believe you did that
Hmm.
because you have this. But I suppose the closest thing that would be autobiographical was in this movie. I forget the name of it right now, but it was um, one where he played this director who was, pure and doing independent films and stuff like that, but he wasn't making any money. And his wife's brother had this hit sitcom that he absolutely hated because it was pandering and
Hmm.
juvenile and all of this. And he says, well, you need to make some money so my sister won't have to live like this anymore. So he gives him a job to make a documentary about him. And what he does is he turns this documentary into a hatchet job showing how two-faced and hypocritical and what a terrible person this guy played by Alan Alda was. And I think that's probably as close as he was going to get to autobiography, saying, this is who I really am. But in public and stuff, I'm this nice, cuddly, friendly guy that, you would be good to have a beer with sometime.
So you mean you're saying that when he was on the Sid Caesar Mel Brooks stuff, he was a child molester then?
He might not have been a child molester, but this was back in the late 50s, and there were a lot lacks standards, So there are a lot of things that you could get away with and stuff, that would be as long as it wasn't one of your coworkers' children and stuff, you could probably get away with it.
Mm.
I didn't know that. I mean, the same thing goes with like Roman Polanski. So he does, Chinatown. He does Rosemary Baby,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course, his wife is involved in that horrible, murder. And
She was a victim, not just involved. She was a victim.
Yeah, she was a victim
For Sharon Tate,
and,
for
but
Sharon Tate. And so you said maybe that changed this guy. So he's not.
Well, the closest, I think he did apologize to the victim, and the victim said later that she forgave him for, what had happened and everything. But he also said, yes, I did do this terrible thing, but I was still not, all there from after my wife's murder. And so I made a lot of bad decisions, and that was just one of them.
Just one of them, huh?
Yeah. But they're still having an arrest warrant for him if he ever enters back into United States territory. So
I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but I mean, he's not making it up. I mean, if you're 8 months or how many months pregnant wife, and they both get killed, I could understand you not being there. I don't know how you would react. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you would do that or do some third thing. I don't know.
Well,
I still think that matter. I think he should not have done it. That's one thing. One of my big issues about this stuff is, apparently, that was the story is, because we don't know all of it yet. But over the years, the story was that he gave a 15-year-old girl Quaaludes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I heard. I could be wrong. If somebody heard something different, then please correct me. And so, in my mind, it's that you give somebody a drug that you perceive will either limit their will or ability to make decisions. But and especially a person who is underage, and I think strict liability, man. You did it.
Well,
you should be responsible.
Well, it goes back to the idea that they said if the person is underage, no matter how much a willing participant they are,
that's right.
It's still wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, but the thing is, but even to give them a drug, an illicit drug, that the purpose of which was to limit their ability to, say no or escape or whatever it is. That's...
Well, the perfect thing is, and this is not getting too far off the point, but one of Bill Cosby's most hilarious routines back in the mid-'60s was about Spanish Fly, for the sole purpose of making your partner more willing. And he did this whole thing about they were going to film some stuff in I Spy in Spain, and he was all happy, not so much because he was going to Spain for the show, but he could get real Spanish Fly, from on site.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you hear the audience laughing at this and everything, and he's making it sound like it's just a fun lark. And there's no discussion of consent or willingness or whatever, something like, or liability for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just the way it was. In 1960, it was just a punchline. In 1980, not so much.
Yeah.
2020, no, not at all. So
yeah. So again, what he's saying, shifting morals, but not even shifting morals. I think because when people see Bill Cosby, they thought, okay, this guy's an entertainer and he's telling a joke, and they think that it's a joke. That no one would do that, because it's a joke, and never, I think, in their minds were the people who are his audience believing that this individual would ever do something like that.
Well, they showed an old interview that Sean Combs did with Conan O'Brien, and so Conan was saying, "Well, tell me about these parties that you have and everything." And this was like about 10 years or so before the headlines, but he was talking about all the things he did. You turn the heat up in the turn the heat up in your house so everybody gets hot and sweaty and they'll get thirsty. So then they'll have to drink more alcohol and they get drunk. And then you lock the doors so they can't get out and do this, that, and the other. And they showed the camera goes back to Conan looking at this, and the look on Conan's face is kind of like the one he gave Danny Masterson when he was talking about stuff, and Conan just said, "Yeah, they're going to arrest you."
Yeah, there you
and
go.
and it was like he was given a blueprint for what he was doing. But you have that kind of immunity when you can say that, and people are going to think, well, it's just
It's a
conversation.
joke.
You don't
Yeah,
really mean that, but
yeah, he's just trying to be flippant or
yeah.
smart, giving these answers, on this show. But you realize that no, this person is serious. They are
Yeah.
actually doing this, not trying to be cute or flippant or expressing some make believe scenario. That
Yeah, there are
they do
people
this.
watching that saying, so that's what happened,
Hmm. Yeah, amazing. So, how about you, Sonia? Is there anyone that you say I am not watching that?
Well, my general category of not watching anything that's like blood, body gore or stuff like that, I'm finding it difficult to go back and watch Cosby stuff now, especially if there's young women involved.
Hmm.
Um, but the other part of me also feels sorry for all the people who worked on these projects behind the scenes and not being able to get the residual checks they deserve because they all probably, some of these folk are dependent on it. Especially when saw the fires, I was like, they're not getting residuals, so they're not getting the
Mhm.
stream of income they were getting, and now because the house is so old because it was passed down from generation to generation, they have nothing.
Mm,
So it's that's I'm having a very hard time separating art from artists
hmm.
in some cases, like with the Neil Gaiman accusations.
Mhm.
On one part, I'm like, I really want to see second, third season of Good Omens. On the other part of me is, but that would mean that Gaiman would get money. But that
Yeah,
also means that the other people don't get money.
yeah. Well, you know what? They just have to live with that.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think that other people should be punished, or maybe that they should say, though, he doesn't get, his
Mhm.
residuals, that they go into a fund, for the
yeah,
purpose of
it's-
paying his victims.
right.
But
Well, they have mentioned that there are. I don't think there will be. If there is a third season of Good Omens, they're going to end it with that. If they
It's
do
they
production of
already
that,
they announced that it's going to be a movie instead of the
yeah.
season. It's going to be one movie to wrap everything up because they did
And
end on a cliffhanger.
and
And
there.
I'm also disappointed with myself that I didn't recognize the elements of Kenneth Lee's stories in Sandman. So now the rumor, I shouldn't say the rumor, the allegation is, and she seeing her past actions now kind of confirm it. Um,
so basically, the
that he
story that they
stole, yeah,
have
for
of
Sandman.
the one of the individual who was, I guess, the deity, the
Yeah,
muse that he kept trapped,
the
you
no,
know?
the Sandman stories were
Hmm.
from her stories.
Wow. All of them?
Most of them, yeah.
Wow.
So Dark Horse has now canceled the anything dealing with Neil Gaiman has been canceled
So
at Dark Horse Comics.
how long
So
has she been making these
up until
allegations?
up until she died,
You're kidding. And I mean, but how many years? I mean,
and
from the very beginning?
yeah, and nobody
And no one
listened to
believed
her.
her?
Uh-uh.
Well,
No, because I remember hearing people saying, "Oh, you got the idea from Neil Gaiman's Sandman," when it was actually the other way around.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so, yeah, Dark Horse has canceled all anything Neil Gaiman. So there was a adaptation of Anansi Boys that he wasn't even writing, but because it was his material,
yeah.
they canceled that. They canceled. They're not doing any trade, graphic novels or anything, compilations,
Wow.
special stuff. So
I
And
guess in a way you would have to do that because if the material is stolen, then how can you continue to
Well,
produce it?
even for the stuff that's not in contention, like Anansi Boys,
Hmm.
and they had just I think Netflix had just optioned Anansi Boys to do a movie or a series that
Yeah.
got canceled.
So I mean, but this is basically a spinoff from American Gods, correct?
Right.
Well,
It's in the same
same
realm type.
universe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Mr. Nancy, I would
Hmm.
presume that
Yeah.
it's
So
from this.
yeah. So yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm analyzing the separating the art from the artists when you know that there's so much other nasty stuff beyond what they do or say.
You know what I
And
think? We have so many people out there who are magnificent artists, creative, smart people who have been, blocked from the industry, like Tanif, as you say. She
mhm.
was
Hmm.
an artist, and she was blocked by someone like that. So I think, it's such that he did this stuff. Goodbye and good riddance. Move out the
And
way and let somebody else come forward with their fabulous. Look how many people we know who are writers who come forward who have created worlds, wonderful stuff. And this person, is occupying space that they should be occupying,
mhm.
that
Well, one of the
we as
things
writers and artists should be occupying. So I don't
Hmm.
I don't have any fear or sadness that they're gone. Good riddance.
one of the things that I was disheartened by, because I have enjoyed a lot of his stuff in the past. There are some of the things I thought were very, very clever with what he did with some of the things that he had done. But in one of the articles where they were outlining the charges against him, and they had his defense of that, and he gave a sort of conditional, half-hearted apology, saying that he did some things that were not taken very well, that were not handled very well, and he is very apologetic about that. But it's mainly him saying, "But I just didn't apologize fast enough for what I did."
No, it's basically it's not that you shouldn't apologize, that you should have apologized. You shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And then I read the article. It was in Vulture, which I think Otto said the Vulture article was. I can't read what the major
It's in New York. It's in New York Magazine, and to
magazine
me,
is Vulture.
it's
Yes.
a definitive article about Gaiman. He's been
Hmm.
doing it all along. Been doing it all along,
Yeah,
and
and I
for a
mean
very
the
long time.
implication. I said one of the young woman that the article started with. The implication is that not just him and his wife, it seems, are implicated in
Hmm.
this activity. And
Yeah.
I think it's a horrible thing when people are, I mean, basically groomed that come into your household. They think that they're supposed to be there for a certain thing, or into your business, and they're there for a certain thing. And little by little, gaining their confidence, eroding their capability to make decisions that if you were a stranger, they would immediately know they're going to get the
Hmm.
heck up out of here. But you become their friend, and as a result, they are not um, thinking clearly or not believing their own eyes and ears. This person is my friend. They wouldn't be doing something like this, or you're put in a position where this is a person of power, and I know their level of and their level of influence, their, sphere of influence. So I know I better, be on my P's and Q's, or if I say no, that could be no to
Hmm.
everything that I've ever wanted to do in my entire life. And
Well, if you
they
read
know this, and they
if you
know
read
this.
that article,
Hmm.
you'll see that the Gaiman family were like members of Scientology, and they were like really up there as far as being whatever the Scientology, whatever they do. And Gaiman was like one of the stars of that particular
Hmm.
religion or cult or whatever you call it.
Hmm.
And so it's like he was being groomed and he was grooming, and so all of it makes sense, and everybody knows it, but it's like we making so much money off this guy,
Well,
let's just ignore it.
Scientology has two tiers. There's a celebrity tier, where you get treated a lot different from you and me walking in off the street.
Hmm. But I figure if you are going through that system, and again, it's not to make excuses for people, but if you are brought up in a system where you are groomed, from, childhood, or even if you are in desperation and they grab you at your moment of desperation and feed you a lot of their doctrine and tell you, do this and life will be wonderful and marvelous. And they feed you, clothe you, put you in housing, and you think, well, this must be it. So how much of this are we gonna, use or look at? I'm not saying an excuse for their behavior, but something that is mitigating with regard to their behavior.
Well, Tom Cruise got hammered in being a Scientology person,
Hmm.
but I never knew that Gaiman was in Scientology or any of that. So
Yeah,
it's like
it was a
it's
cruise, and then
really
John
it's
Travolta.
curious. Yeah, they
Yeah.
got hammered. They got hammered for being affiliated with, and the
You
level at which Gaiman was affiliated with Scientology is like he might as well have been like one of the main, up there with L. Ron Hubbard.
Oh,
The way,
yeah. Yeah.
know.
yeah, the way he
Well,
was in it, and it's amazing that he was given a pass on all of that.
well, they also say, and of course, you'll never know unless you're in that in that level. But they also say that once they know all of your secrets, they say, well, if you don't do what we ask you to do, or what we tell you to do, take your pick, that we're going to out you or whatever and stuff. So that also creates a lot of loyalty. And then there's some people that just feel loyalty because it tells them what a wonderful person you are and
Hmm.
everything. Because of course Isaac Hayes was a member of the Church of Scientology. I think Herbie Hancock either was or still is a member. So there are a lot of people that are members, but they just kind of keep it under the
Under the
radar.
radar, exactly. And so you wonder, what are y'all into? Should we be worried
Yeah, I
about
mean,
you?
you could be a member, but I mean, Woody Allen is Jewish. That doesn't give him carte blanche to abuse underage girls. And the same thing with Gaiman. It's just that it's like
Hmm.
it's not a judgment on Scientology. It's a judgment on what Scientology from the article, what
Hmm.
Scientology allowed him to do and trained him to do, and think that he could get away with.
Yeah, because they benefited from it. You know, and that's an issue. If you hang out with people who put up with your negative eccentricities because there's something that they gain from it, then
Hmm.
are they just as guilty, of whatever it is that you do, because they lead you to believe that it's okay, or they don't step in and say, we're part of your church or whatever. We're telling you this is wrong.
Yeah,
You know,
well, it
it's
makes them enablers at the very least.
well, I
Or do
mean,
you
I
just
use more
ignore it?
than enablers because they benefit from it. I
Hmm.
think if you're an enabler, that it's one thing, but to benefit from it, you know, I don't know.
But the
I
thing
don't know.
is that Gaiman wrote so much stuff.
Or stole
You
some
know,
stuff. We don't know which.
he stole so much stuff, wrote so much stuff, put his
Hmm.
name on so much stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Are you able to even enjoy the stuff that's associated with him without thinking about the horrible things that he's been involved in?
Well, for me, I look at it that even they say, well, it's just you know, one person, 10 people. Look at all this work that he has done, the interesting characters or whatever. But I think, what is the book? What is it? What is it? Damien? What is it? The one about the child who they live in the society that is perfect, but the price of that perfection is that this one child has to live in abject despair and darkness but everyone else gets to live a happy life. And it's at one point, and it's like when you are coming of age, that you are informed of this fact that this one child is sacrificed for this blissful existence of everyone else. So you have to make the decision, do I live in this society where a child's life is sacrificed? And again, since it's a child, they don't even get the right to complain or to step up, and say, I don't want to do this, or I choose to do something other than this. So there are
Yeah.
people who will say, yes, that this is fine, it is appropriate for this child's life to be sacrificed for the benefit of all. And then others who leave the society because they say, no, it's not appropriate to live
Yeah.
in a society.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it. Do y'all remember?
I can't pronounce the name, but it's Le Guin, and it's the ones who walk away from Olmis or something like that.
It's a Leguin book.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's a short story.
Okay.
And that was the thing. In fact, in one of the
Ones who walk away from Omelas.
Yeah.
Okay. The ones who walk away from Omelas.
Yeah. So that's it. In changing media again, but somebody else who, and I wasn't really a fan of his. And even when I read the story, and it kind of made me wonder, how could this become like a YA book, considering some of the themes in it? But I can't read or support anything that Orson Scott Card does.
And your
well, first of all, he is I think he's a Mormon, and he doesn't exactly promote the Church of Mormon in his writings, but he carries a lot of ideas that they would support. And and there are little things that showed up, like in the original. I think they might have changed the name later, and when they made the movie, and the people who made the movie from a few years ago went to great pains to separate themselves from the source material. And if you can overlook the parts they did, like you're training middle school children to be killers, or whatever. And they said it's not quite like that. But one of the things that he had done in the original version, and I don't know if they modified it in later editions, but the aliens that they call Formix, because they were like ant-like in the movie, were called buggers in the original book. Yes, okay. And so that's what we're dealing with, that level of wink wink sophistication with it, And there was a project that he had gotten to do for DC, that they were going to have him write, because every once in a while they'll get a celebrity writer to write something. And he was going to write this Superman story. And when the artist who had been assigned to illustrate the story found out that's whose work he was going to be working, he refused to do it. He says, no, I'm not going to do it. And there was so much pushback on the story till they eventually dropped the whole project. I think they might have let him keep the money as a pat on the back and stuff. Just go away and don't darken our doorstep again. But he does engender that kind of those feelings from people who have to work with him. So,
all right. Anyone else?
Well, there are some, people that you said you're never going to watch them because of their positions, or they just offend you, and you wind up watching them, like Bruce Willis. When Bruce Willis was on Moonlighting, what was it?
Moonlighting.
He said something about beating up black kids when he was growing up, or some nonsense like that. And so, it's like, I don't want to watch a film with him in it. And then, The Sixth Sense came out, and you said, well, I really want to see this film, but I'm not going to watch this film because this guy is in it. And then I think there was a New York Post review that said, this is not a Bruce Willis film. So obviously, it's not just you learn that's not just you that had a problem with Bruce Willis. A number of people had problems with Bruce Willis, and The Sixth Sense wasn't a Bruce Willis film. And so you see it because of M. Night Shyamalan, and then the same thing with Unbreakable. And then the irony of it is, the other film that M. Night did, Signs, Mel Gibson was in it, and it probably should have been Bruce Willis in it.
Yeah, you think that's going to be a trilogy at one point? Is it not really a trilogy, but kind of? I mean, I was shocked to see Mel Gibson in it, and I kind of guess I had expected to see Bruce Willis. Though it's like I'm not a Bruce Willis fan, but I think he did an excellent job in I guess both of the films in Unbreakable and in The Sixth Sense.
Well, that's where it gets complicated because on the one hand, there are some problematic things, but when Frank Darabont was going to do the Green Mile, he originally wanted Bruce Willis for the lead, and for some reason, Bruce Willis couldn't do it. But he said, "But I know I read the script and everything. And if you haven't cast the part of John Coffey, I got the perfect person for the part." And he recommended, God, I lost his name and stuff. But the guy who ended up playing John Coffey, that was his second.
Michael Clark Duncan?
Yeah, Michael Clark Duncan. And so he did have a habit of, like looking out for people he'd worked with or something like that. And so even just when you think, well, this person is irredeemable, they'll do something that makes you say, well, okay. And then one of the problems that I have is you look at it and you realize just how many things Kevin Spacey was in. So, so if channel surfing and I come across The Usual Suspects, I'm still going to watch it and just say, well, this was before the other stuff came out. Or
well, the thing is, but are you okay when you say that? Well, this before it came out, so is it that my attachment to it predates the moment that I found out what he did? Therefore, I don't feel the guilt attached to that particular performance or that work.
I think there is a fair amount of hypocrisy that goes along with it, and it makes you kind of have to admire that somebody like Ridley Scott was so committed to it that he decided, I'm going to reshoot every scene that he was in and put somebody else in it because I don't want to be associated with doing this and everything. But the thing is that some people they were so pervasive and for where they were and stuff. There are just so many things that I can't watch that, can't watch that because of this person being in it.
Yeah, I mean, certain things. I guess, for instance, when you say, "I don't watch a Rob Schneider thing," that you're not particularly fond of Rob Schneider stuff. So I get I get that, and so it's not necessarily him as a human being. It's just that the types of projects that he does don't attract you. I get it. I mean, because there are people like that, of course, that they had come out with something I'm not gonna see ever, because I just know that this is not the type of programming that I probably would.
It's something you don't like. I mean, it's different. Is like I'm not going to watch. I said I wasn't going to watch any John Carpenter movies because I'm not a fan of that. That's one thing to me. I think what we're talking about are things that people specifically do. Like, for instance, I'm not going to watch. I used to be a huge fan of Seinfeld. I can't watch it anymore because of what the actor who played
Michael Richards.
Yeah, I can't.
It's hard to watch.
Yeah, it got nothing to do, with his acting. I mean, they're a bunch of, so-called bad actors, not bad actors, but they're not good at their craft,
right?
As opposed to people who are the Mel Gibsons, the Mark Wahlbergs, we're talking about a different. I mean, as far as I know, Rob Schneider has never done anything like molest people or
Mm-hmm.
say a bunch of racial slurs or
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
No,
or throw
he's
bricks
been
at buses or something like that.
he's been low key. The people who used to work with him on the show have never come away and said he was difficult to work with. Like, let's say what they would say about Chevy Chase. If you ask, what
Yeah.
was it like to work with Chevy? That kind of thing. But it's just that he knows that he can get away making these. We can film this in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Low budget, low brow entertainments and stuff. And I cannot see myself being entertained watching one.
You
I mean,
don't
it's
like
kind of
you
like
just don't
Adam
like it.
Sandler, isn't it? Same kind of thing. He can do it quick, and get it
Yeah,
done and get it out there.
So it's based on the quality
yeah,
as opposed to him being Hitler. That I
yeah.
think there's a difference.
Yeah.
There's a it's like I don't watch this. I don't care if you're Shakespearean or whatever
Hmm.
level of acting that you have. I will not watch it because you are a horrible human being and
Yeah.
you
And
treat
then there's
people
some people, it's
horribly.
like, right. And then there's some things I don't watch this because this person's not a particularly good actor.
Hmm.
Like I still, I know that you like Shakespeare in Love, Cranston, but I
Hmm.
just cannot understand the attraction of Gwyneth Paltrow. I just do not think she's a good actress. I
Well,
mean,
I
she is Hollywood royalty, this is for sure.
don't.
With her parents, Bruce Paltrow and Blythe Danner.
Hmm.
But never thought she was a very good actress. You know, um, but look at Denzel's son. He gets a lot of work, and again, I don't think he's a very good actor.
Hmm.
But again, Hollywood royalty, so
Yeah.
they're gonna get a shot before many other people might. But it's kind of like if they're in something, like for instance, the talented Mr. Ripley,
Hmm.
the version of Matt Damon. I mean, I thought that was a really good film. I mean, she was in it, but I didn't watch it to watch her. I watched for the talented Mr. Ripley
Hmm.
isms of it, which was again, very good. I thought Matt Damon did an excellent job in the role.
Hmm. Oh,
Mr.
okay. Well, how about her in Seven?
She
Also,
had
I mean, I told you, I don't,
not a whole
I
lot of heavy lifting. I think.
yeah, I don't think that she's a good actress.
Well,
Like,
the thing is, you talk about the talented Mr. Ripley. If you watch the remake that was done
mm-hmm.
with Dakota Fanning,
Yeah, the difference
you'll
between
see
she and Dakota Fanning. Yeah,
you see
Hmm.
the difference. It's like seeing A Raisin in the Sun and seeing Danny Glover as opposed to Sidney Poitier, and it's just different
yeah,
Hmm.
between night and day.
different level of acting brought to this project. And so, yeah, I think Dakota Fanning did really an excellent job in that role. But the role was a little different and actually more heavy lifting, I think,
Hmm.
than Gwyneth Paltrow had to do in the role.
By the way,
And
speaking of Raisin in the Sun, I'm sorry.
go on.
I just isn't it amazing now that Sean Combs was in Raisin in the Sun on Broadway,
Yeah,
and he was doing
yeah.
all this stuff, but people ignored him and actually put him on the stage in a Broadway play.
Well, maybe he put money behind it. A lot of people get
Yeah.
away with stuff
And,
like that when they put money behind
and
projects.
so it's circular, right? So basically,
Hmm.
like we said at the beginning, it all comes down to money.
Yeah.
You can be like a concentration camp, uh,
Hmm.
scientists operating on people. But as long as you can get funding, you can get your
Hmm.
film made.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there was a thing once they did on, and it's amazing how these things come around. They were doing an episode of Finding Your Roots, and it's
Hmm.
always this thing. And my complaint with the show is the two things they don't tell you is how long it took them to track all of this stuff down and what resources they got to and how
Hmm.
much it costs for them to do all of this. But they come in with the big book and can you turn this page and read the highlighted passage right there? So they get to the end of this episode and the person they were doing was Audra McDowell. And she said that we found out that because we use DNA tracing now, we found out that somebody else who's been on our show it's like a third cousin. And
Mm-hmm.
to me, I never understood that and everything. So if you're anything past his first cousin or whatever, um, it's you all aren't really related then, are you? But it turns out that she finds out that Sean Combs is her like fifth cousin removed or something like that. And she
Mm-hmm.
said, "No way!" And she says, "Oh, I kissed my cousin on stage. Oh." And nowadays, I'm pretty sure she's saying, "No, I wasn't even in that play. I wasn't there and stuff. No, it wasn't me."
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think someone was saying he should at the time he should be nominated for a Tony based on his portrayal of the film. So it's one thing if you bring money to the film, to a project, but it's another thing to get like the accolades and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Well,
oh man,
but that's how you know whether or not your publicist is earning his fee. If you're,
Uh-huh.
planting those stories and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I know. I mean, I know we kind of slipped a little bit over time a little bit, but I want to know, ask anybody, is there anything else that you think, yeah, I don't watch that? Because I know you gave two categories, the things that you saw that you won't see anymore versus the things that you will never see.
Hmm.
So, so anything else that anybody has in those categories, things that I will never see or things that I saw that I will not watch anymore?
things that
Um,
things you never see. I mean, I have things that I will never, I have
Mm-hmm.
never seen and will never see, and that's like E.T. and a lot of the Steven Spielberg, young white boy in the suburbs movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not interested in seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's some sort of reality that I'm not familiar with,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's done for a particular purpose. So I'm not interested in seeing that. I'm not interested in seeing, um, you know, no kind of 16 Candles,
Mm-hmm.
Breakfast Club type movie. So that kind of stuff I've never seen. Animal House, I've seen it um, a couple of times. It's not like I won't watch it again, but if it's on, I'm not going to seek it out or anything like that. But the Bill Maher show, I don't watch anymore because uh, basically he wanted to bust the union because he got tired of waiting for the writers' strike to be over. So he was about to restart his show just before the strike was settled. So those are mine.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah. How about you, Cranston?
There's some people that it's easy to walk away from because you didn't really like them too much, even before all the stuff came out about R. Kelly. I was
Mm-hmm.
never an R. Kelly fan, and if I had any control over the music, anytime I believe I Can Fly came on, I would put on something else. So there, him and a couple of other entertainers who I haven't thrown out their CDs, but fortunately, I never bought any Snoop CDs, so that's not a problem or anything like that. But there are some people whose stuff I don't quite listen to. That I can't really see that I'm going to support them because you find out something about them that is kind of problematic. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I have those things where I do not want to just watch them because I'm not interested in them. And there's
Mhm.
certain people like, I mean, for a long time, I've known Bill Maher is not somebody that I watch. I mean, that's the person I leave the room because I think he's an opportunist. Um, and, other people can watch and they have interest in the show, but, not me. I'm not, you know, whatever it is that people, will say, he's kind of like one of those hypocrites that speaks in terms of freedom this, freedom that. But when people say I should be free to not have you come to our school to do your comedy show, then they don't get that freedom.
Mhm.
Your freedom only extends to as far as me getting what I want
Mhm.
when I want it. So
What
no,
about what about
uh,
Russell Brand?
I don't. You know what? It's so funny. I know he must have done something, but I don't know him well enough to even know what it was he did. What did he do?
He did a whole lot of sexual assaults, apparently, according to the
Those are bad.
BBC. Yeah, they did it. They did an investigation, and they found out that at first, according to the stuff I read, no one believed the allegations made by several young women, and then
Hmm.
after further investigation, they said, "Yeah, you're right. He did all that stuff. They
What's
caught him doing
wrong
it."
with people doing that kind of stuff?
Well, it's that thing about because he had that kind of off the wall, off the hinge goofball persona, and that was just him acting up, and it was just they took it out of context. And now you say, yeah, well, okay.
Mm-mm-mm. Wow, I had no idea that people out there doing that. He was out there doing that stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, I remember seeing him, ironically, again on the Bill Maher show, and
Hmm.
he sounded, plugged in, politically as far as
Hmm.
intellectual thought about things and
Hmm.
all that, and he was a menace.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's kind of crazy when people. I guess what it is that as long as what it is that is said or done supports whatever their core beliefs are or what their beliefs have become, then they're fine. But as soon as they have to make sacrifice regarding those beliefs, then oh no, you know, now it's different. Because if I have to say, for instance, that you know, um, all people have the right to live wherever they want, but then say, well, what about people who are crossing the border? So, well, no, because that will infringe on me wanting to get the things that I want. I thought it was very interesting. I was reading, in fact, something today where somebody was making comments about quote unquote, illegal aliens, and that if people come to your country and they don't follow the laws, then you should be able to deport them. But if you are trying to be Christian and you're saying that you should treat the alien people, the foreigners, as you treat, the citizens, right? And
Hmm.
Hmm.
citing Leviticus, then if an alien person, foreign person, commits a crime, then should they just go through the process and be, arrested and go to court and then go to jail if they're, guilty, and not go to jail if they're not? I mean, what is the concept of deporting them? If you're treating them as you would treat a citizen, then you take them through the process. That's all. So I don't, when people say things like that, I don't think they know what they're really saying. They're, oh, did you put them out of the country if they commit a crime? But so how do you know if they've committed a crime unless they are afforded the process and go to trial through a jury of their peers to make a determination as to whether or not they had done it? Um, I don't know.
Well, it's like the statement about the air disaster in D.C.,
Hmm.
where the president said it was DEI that was the cause of the crash because they were not hiring enough qualified people to to uh, to be air traffic controllers, and then the parts that they did not hear him playing and stuff was even worse than the part that he actually said. He was saying that, yeah, well, they hired people who had all sorts of physical disabilities, so he began to run all the disabilities down that kept them from doing that. They, they didn't have arms, they couldn't see, they couldn't
They,
hear, they couldn't do this,
they
that, and the
lowered the standards so they could get the
yeah.
jobs.
And said, and they even had dwarfs doing air traffic controlling, and that's why they didn't have qualified. Yeah, that's why they didn't have qualified people, doing that.
But he didn't tell people how he fired most of the FAA staff right before the
Yeah.
accident, so there was nobody in control.
So one of the
Wow.
reporters who actually was one of those people that actually followed up on these things that says, well, and this was like the night of the disaster when they hadn't found anything. They were still trying to recover bodies. And it says, well, without any information, like how can you say this? And he said, because I have common sense.
Okay. It's like, hmm. That should make you very, very
Yeah.
concerned.
Stop watching this. I stopped watching whenever certain aspects of the news. I can't.
Yeah,
Yeah, it just
agreed. Agreed.
I'm afraid I'm addicted to that rabbit hole because well, somebody sends me. I won't seek it out, but if somebody sends me something, and there was something that came out yesterday that was from the Department of Defense, and they said this will go into effect immediately. And they said that the Department of Defense will no longer allow its personnel, even if they do it on their own time, to support any of the cultural month observances.
true.
And he
Yeah.
just went down the list. And of course, Black History / African American History Month was first on the list, but Women's History, Hispanic History, Asian History, any other minority history, Pride celebrations, nothing like that, no more.
Yeah, I
And
saw the one of them covering up the job, the wall of inspiration, where diversity, clear thinking, and all of those other things were being covered up.
yeah, and the thing was about people who have no sense of history or no sense of irony or both was this official press release from the DOD ended by saying that instead of celebrating cultural factors, that they're going to look at each individual and give them the recognition that they deserve based on their merit and performance and so on and so on and so forth. And that kind of overlooks the fact that so that means that they're not going to say anything about the code talkers. Because they also mentioned Native American history too. They're not going to talk about all of the Asians who were put in concentration camps during the war. They're not going to talk about all of the Black soldiers who were denied Medal of honors, all of the women who were not allowed anything or something like that. And those, of course, what the military did. The only thing that they haven't did yet, was rename all the bases after Confederate generals.
Well, the thing is, a lot of us took that stuff for granted. A lot of people took things for granted, and so it was. If you weren't woke before, you should be probably woke now.
Well, the
Hmm.
best thing is they're pointing out that the number of people who found out that when DEI was a dog whistle for Black people getting a job, but they said that the single group of people who benefited most from DEI was white women,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's
and
always been the
now
case.
now they're being asked to take those early buyouts and everything, so, and they're all surprised to find out, oh, you mean me? I'm a DEI? I have to go now? So,
Yeah, and veterans too. They said that they
mm-hmm.
are counted within those numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them didn't realize it.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because I remember this episode I remember that the paper chase when Denise Nichols was on it, and she was, a black female student, and they were saying that no, the she was very nervous, in class, ask her questions, and because people were, saying she had this belief at least that she was, affirmative action candidate in school. And so Hart, who is the, hero of the show, he's like, I don't understand, why she is, being this way, and maybe, it's difficult, blah, blah, blah. And so, of course, Kingsfield says, yeah, you need to read the diversity statement. And it also said people from the Midwest, from farms.
Mm-hmm.
So then he goes, wait a minute, you mean me too? And
Mm-hmm.
then, kind of understand the shock is somebody saying, are you saying that I don't belong thing?
Mm-hmm.
So no, no, it's and to get it. So, you presume
Mm-hmm.
that you got here purely unmerited. No,
Mm-hmm.
you got here because of where you're from.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was, really interesting. But so many people out there really believe that somehow they got to where they are based on merit without understanding that no,
Mm-hmm.
you are here because the institution that you are in saw a need for diversity of different types of thoughts, different
Mm-hmm.
types of people from different types of places, because they don't want to be monolithic. They want to have
Mhm.
all different types of ideas so people can know how to respond when someone says, "Well, this idea comes from my background," and
Mm-hmm.
someone else can say, "Well, yeah, well, this idea comes from mine," and to always have an idea of how it is that we are alike and how it is that we are different, and whether those things even make a difference. So I just think a lot of people are of the mind that, I mean, some people want to have an advantage based on the sex, ethnicity. Um, uh, they would be glad to take that advantage because they know that otherwise they would not be able to measure up. That they need that benefit of racism or sexism for them to get a leg up. So you know, we most of us have known that for a very long time. But a lot of them, however, don't realize that these programs that were put in place to have a diverse uh, United States also included many of them.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
They just don't realize it. And they are starting, I think, to realize it now. You
Yeah,
know.
this is their FAFO
Hmm.
wake up call moment.
Yeah. But what can you say? I mean, if you live in a world where you think that it is all right for someone else to suffer or not have a thing so that you can have a thing, then when something like this happens to you, why is anyone supposed to be sad or feel sorry for you?
Mm-hmm.
You create the world for yourself that you allow to be created for others. So I
Yeah,
don't
but
know
I'm
what to
not
say.
supposed to live in it though.
Okay. Yeah, but it's going to be an interesting, few years, you know, but I think people need to start understanding the the country that we're supposed to have.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to be the shining, you know, place on the hill that other countries and people look to inspire to be like or want to be here. And now we're just, you know,
Global bullies.
yeah, yeah, and it's so sad. It's just really sad because we are being because pushed around by people who just want to be in power for whatever reason. I mean, they don't have ideas. They don't have, concepts to lift or elevate anyone but themselves. And there's too many
So,
people. Mhm.
so did you watch? I mean, people, actors who support this particular administration, like I think the Kevin Costners of the world, and the what's the other? There's several actors who just come out and say,
But
you
most of
know,
them I never watched anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I know my sister watched, was it Yellowstone? Is that the name of it, Yellowstone?
Mm-hmm.
But she said that she stopped watching it because it just was toxic. I didn't watch it because I did not think that it would be good. But she said she tried watching it, it was toxic. I'm not a real big, Kevin Costner fan, but maybe that's why I would not watch it either because he hasn't been anything that's really good in a long time. So I don't search him out to say, hey, it's Kevin Costner's doing a thing, let me watch it. Now somebody said, hey, that's really good, you might want to watch it. Um,
what
but
about what about Tyler Perry's
oh
new
no no
film on
no no
Netflix?
no no no, oh no, I mean that's another one I tried to watch it at the beginning, but I was so put off by the affectation that they had Kerry Washington speaking, It's like, I mean, like she's like my, my aunt, when I was a little girl, and like, 50, 60-year-old aunt. Why is he talking like that? I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what that was about because she wasn't that old, so I don't understand why she's talking like that. I mean, I tried to watch it, but I mean, I'm just not, again, people think not a big Tyler Perry fan, not a Perry fan. Um, and my sisters watch, a lot of his
So
work.
if it was good, you would be able to ignore that it was made by Tyler Perry.
I think, yeah, if that, I mean, was the subject matter is of interest to me. So if it had been good, yeah, I think I might have been able to get through it.
Mhm.
But the fact is that it is Tyler Perry's stuff, and I just think that he does. I mean, a lot of people like Tyler Perry,
Mm-hmm.
you know, movies and shows.
Yeah,
They just don't appeal to me
yeah.
that
We would
that
get
much.
people who would come in and they would come up to the desk all excited and say, "Where's your Tyler Perry movie section?" And I would very calmly say, in a very non-judgmental voice, that, well, they're all by the titles. They don't have a section by who made them. So you have to
Hmm.
have a title, and you can go look for it that way and stuff, But no.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I'm just not a big fan. But again, if if it had been good, I would have watched it because I am interested in the subject matter. I think it is a good subject matter. I mean, it's kind of like that thing what Spike Lee did about the Miracle at St. Anna, and I tried to watch that, and it was so disheartening. It's like, you're Spike Lee, you get the opportunity to make a film about, black men during World War II, and it just, wow. I mean, this one scene was so horrible. The guy out in the battlefield, I want my mom, I'm kind of his mother and stuff like that. It's like, and that was necessary. Why?
Mm-hmm.
What was the point of that? And I did, and then like these little things that he puts in his films that are like, like callbacks to his earlier films in the 80s. And I feel like you're in the middle of a film regarding World War II, and you are putting the shtick from your earlier films that just feels so out of place, you know? And I don't know if he's felt that because he is Spike Lee and they expect the Spike Lee isms in his films. But, you know, that mirror that particular film could have done without it. I mean, I watched a lot of Spike Lee films as, when he was,
Mm-hmm.
you know, early on. But, I just feel like as he is evolving as a director, as a writer, that, he kind of stagnated for a long time. And then I think he's, you know, I guess doing different things, but how the people say, I don't want anything from the academy, I don't want anything from this, that, and the other. And then when they get it, they're so happy. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, are you an outsider or an insider?
Mm-hmm.
Are you an outsider only until they accept you on the inside, and now the inside's okay? It just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't okay when they didn't accept you, you know? And somebody just posted a few seconds ago, I saw on Facebook. I just saw it on Facebook a second ago. It may have been there for the entire, week, and I don't go there that often. But it said, like Anthony Mackie, saying that becoming the Captain America character is his, that's like his Oscar because the Academy has never, honored him in that way, based on his works. And it's like Anthony Mackie is saying, we understand that until you did that role, that you didn't do very good work. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's also, a possibility. Not to look at yourself that you did such wonderful work and you were overlooked. The reality is that you didn't do very good work, and then you had the opportunity to get a vehicle that showed, some depth.
Mm-hmm.
So that may be the thing, that sometimes you got to look at yourself and say, okay, maybe I could have done better because I'm not a big um, Michael B. Jordan fan, but I think he did a good job in Black Panther, and I think the small role he played in the Wakanda River
Hmm.
thing was also good. I never got all the way through Fruitvale Station, which I know is his first,
Hmm.
foray with Coogler. And then I did see him in the Rocky,
Hmm.
the Apollo Creed films, not Rocky, but Apollo Creed films, which I think he did all right. He didn't embarrass himself. He did okay in those. But again, I think that Black Panther, he did, that showed his,
Hmm.
some depth, capability, in those roles that he did. And I know what is the one, Raisin Dion. I think he produce, direct, whatever on that, produced it.
Hmm.
I thought that was quite horrible. But he didn't act in it. He wasn't the. I think it was the dad who had died. That ghostly figure. But the woman who played the mom was horrible, and the little boy
Hmm.
was even worse. So sometimes you have to be honest about what it is that you see, so that you don't accept poor projects. And they were terrible. The people who were in the trailer, the comic book trailer, were far superior.
Well, that was the
So,
thing. If I had known that Coogler had directed, I know at least the first Apollo, the first Creed movie, I
mhm,
probably would have seen it. And I
mhm,
remember when the other Republican, uh, Sylvester Stallone, kept saying that Coogler should have gotten a nomination for it. I had no
mhm.
idea that that was the same guy that did Fruitvale Station and had done Black Panther. Then I said, okay, I should have watched it. But when I heard what it was, another Rocky movie, that's okay. I've seen enough Rocky movies, so.
Yep, it's okay. That's enough
Yeah,
of
I
that.
was the same. I was the same way until I saw it, and he Kugler was masterful.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, so they put the film together visually differently, from how you'd have suspected. I mean, it was very, very interesting, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I mean, but there are people out there who are true artists who can make you see things differently. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's always a good thing. Um, and I know it's getting time is coming up to it. So is there anything that anybody wants to say? Any events coming up? Stuff of that ilk?
Mm,
Birthdays, celebrations? I know we're coming up on what is it?
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day, yeah.
Black
And
Love Day on the 13th.
all right. All
Well,
sorts
what do
of
you
good
think
stuff.
about this? This is the most weird Black History Month that I've ever encountered in my lifetime.
Mhm.
With
And
with with all of these conditions on it, and don't you think that we're challenged as Black people, where we had the president of the United States saying basically that government agencies are not to recognize Black History Month?
yeah, I think that is problematic. But we don't have to listen to it.
And we just have to remember the old thing that Black history is 365 days a year. So,
Absolutely.
I'm predicting a large rise of homeschooling in history to
mhm.
Yeah,
supplement what's not being taught.
yeah.
You're going to see a lot of history books automatically going to the bestseller list.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because sometimes the books we rely on and the people we get our information from are not necessarily reliable.
Well, I think correct me if I'm wrong. I think what Sonia is saying is that they're non approved history books,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and that we are going beyond what it is that they talk about and get our own history
Yeah.
books.
I see a lot of podcasts. Like I just found another one, and it's actually titled Things You're Not Going to Learn in School.
Mhm.
I see those sort of things rising um, on all sides, actually, not just African American women, Native
Mhm.
American, fill in the blank. I have a feeling the other side will be doing the exact same thing
Why
because
bother? I mean, they just co-opted, our system anyhow.
they're going to believe that something's going to. They're still not talking about us. It seems like right now people are asking for more. You know, that's not exactly right. More, or whatever. There's still some. Your school must still be biased because they haven't gotten rid of everything.
Mm-hmm.
They're still talking about Martin Luther King, or I think heard of one school district that took Hillary Clinton and Helen Keller out of their women of note
Why?
section. I don't know. I'm
We've been
still
learning
trying to
about
find
Helen
out
Keller
why.
since we were children.
I'm still trying to figure out why, but those two women they don't exist in their books when they talk about
Why would
notable
Helen
women.
Keller not exist?
I have no idea.
I mean,
So
what did Helen Keller do? Gee,
Due to
she
them,
run for
yeah.
president.
She's Helen
She run for
Keller.
president too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what
Yeah,
happened? I
must
don't.
have.
I see both sides trying to tell their own history. The bad part is there's no median or person setting the standards. Here's what you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Here's what you need to, and it all comes down to here's what you need to know to survive the world. Know that every minority in one country is not a minority in another country. So you're going to have to figure out how to survive and to live and to work with others.
Yeah.
But you
So
know,
I mean, the thing you have to also think about is this: that everybody who lives in the United States is more like each other than we are like anyone else that is not in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
That the culture in the United States is its own culture, which is, kind of like the melting pot, the goulash, of society. And to pretend that that's not the case is something that's done by the very few in order to control the many.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of crazy.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yep, but I mean, so this is what we talked about. We are now rolling into almost an hour and 45 minutes. So, so thank everybody for listening in. You can make your comments when you're liking and subscribing. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about or don't want us to talk about anymore. Next week, our show will be I Can Do Other Things. Okay. Which is, as we focus on many of our actors and actresses and other creators who have, worked in a particular show, done it for many years, and then decided, I can do other things, and some who did it successfully and some not so much. So I can do other things. It will be the topic of the next show, which will be February 8th.
Yep.
All right then.
Okay, I've got the Reading Rainbow song in my head thing. I can't do anything.
Okay, that's what some people think, don't they? Shelley Long. So we'll talk about again next week. I can do other things. So thank you all so much. From us here in the Otherhood, have a wonderful remainder of your weekend. Have a great week, and we will see you again right here next week. Thank you.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Good night.
Night.
Like and subscribe.
Oh, and again, happy Black History Month
Yeah.
every day. All right. Good night.